Okay guys, I'm gonna have to review something that's gonna have to take a little bit of an open mind. Look, I know, just hear me out. Hardware Hound here. We are about to review a prototype device that is quite a bit different than pretty much anything that you would usually expect to see. So if you remember my trip to CES last January, I stumbled across a random booth that had what looked like some mice that had kind of a weird, different kind of clicking apparatus on them. And I took one look at him and said, no, and started to walk away. But the guy stopped me and was like, no, you need to understand this, and started giving me a chance to look at this product. Well, let's just say that through some time and some thinking through it, I started kind of feeling like, you know, this guy might be onto something. But now we're doing an actual full review. I have the RBT prototype right here. So the company is Quadriclicks Gaming and their mouse is the Rabbit. Yes, he called it the Rabbit. And so, hey, neat little device, neat little design. Is it totally gimmicky or is there something more? We're gonna find out. But first, let me tell you a little bit more about the Rabbit. So why is it called a Rabbit? Why do they not call it a mouse? I get it, it's basically still a mouse. But there's two key differences between a rabbit and, well, a mouse. Rabbits aren't typically known for biting you, but mice, you know, pet mice might be okay, but other mice you might not want to just pick up and handle. And when I say bite you, I'm talking about carpal tunnel. And you know, a lot of people suffer from that, very painful, can really affect gaming. But the other thing that rabbits are known for is speed, and being really fast, a lot faster than the mouse. We're going to take a look at that, and we're going to see how the Rabbit measures up. RBT stands for right above touch. It's going to kind of be important. Let's start taking a closer look at this guy, but first we need to look at how I use a mouse to really understand this. Okay, to understand the Rabbit, I feel like I need to talk about how a regular mouse works for me so we can really understand when I start talking about performance and comfort. I want to get into how I use a mouse, and one of the big things I want to talk about is why I don't suffer from things like carpal tunnel and stuff. So I've got my little standard mouse. This guy, I think, was like a $9 deal on Amazon that I picked up. So long gaming sessions, you end up having a lot of tension in your hand to do that fast reaction time. If I want to click really fast, like I can try to relax my hand, but it kind of slows me down. So I'm going to tense my hand, and I'm going to, especially on the middle finger. This is if I'm having to do a lot of right clicking, if I try to keep that loose, it seems like it's going to slow me down a little bit. So when I'm getting into an intensive match, I'm probably going to be tensing my whole hand to do those clicks at my finger points. So at my fingertips. So what did I do to help fix my levels of comfort so that when I did long gaming sessions, I wouldn't get pain? The first thing I would have to do is, first off, I always measure my chair and my desk so that I can lay my forearm and keep my wrist straight while I'm using any mouse. So that's the key, one of the first keys. I don't let my arm hang, because if I do, I start feeling that tension anyway. The problem is that it puts pressure on my forearm, which can hit that reaction time a little bit, and that's kind of an issue there. So that's the first thing I do, though, because pain to me is more important to limit than just necessarily the fastest reaction time. I'm not an esports person trying to make it in that industry. Second thing I need to do, though, is if I've got my whole forearm resting on the desk like that, then I can't slide my whole arm when I'm moving. So that means I bring my DPI up to super sensitive levels so that if I move like this, that's probably too much, about that much movement will move my cursor across an entire 1080 screen. About that much. That is how sensitive I keep my optical. It's just sensitive enough that I can still do really slow movements and get to the point that I want. So I'm literally just barely, see, I can rest my arm on the table and do that. So I'm using as little muscle as possible, as little tension as possible to do that. So then one of the keys is that the mouse can't be too heavy, which is why I never ended up using this thing, because this thing was kind of a little bulky for me. And these buttons have to be really, really light so I can just very easily click them. I still have trouble with misclicks and stuff in gaming, but that is how I have learned to mouse. So a 2000 DPI sensor, if I use the enhanced pointer precision on Windows, which I like to use, and I bring that all the way up to max, it's not fast enough. I found that about 3500 DPI is about the minimum I would need to have the cursor speed I want and the pointer precision. I've always felt like pointer precision in Windows helps my accuracy quite a bit, so I always like that feature enabled from Windows. So let's go to the Rabbit now, and let's explain how this has changed everything about how I use a mouse. So when I'm using this guy, we're talking about a totally different feel. So first off, normally I'm clicking with the fingertips. Not on this guy. On this guy, I am literally clicking with the bottom back end of my finger right here at the base. So I'm resting where I have this little section here in my hand is right at the base of the clickers, and that's all I have to do to click. Now, the nice thing about that is, for whatever reason, when you're doing that, it's really easy to click fast and not have to tense your whole hand. In fact, I can let my whole arm just relax. In fact, rather than having to put my whole arm on the desk, I found out that I can just put my wrist on the edge of the desk, set my DPI high, so I can still just have my nice little movement. I don't have to move my whole hand, and let my forearm just rest free off the desk, and that's super comfortable. It just like puts no tension in my forearm or up into my hand. And I'm clicking away, and I'm just feeling like, hey, everything's great. There's no tension, I'm not like tensing up my hand or anything. I can just relax and go. Now, I can tell that the Rabbit, that this prototype only has a 2000 DPI sensor, because when I set everything high, I had to disable my enhancing my precision setting so I could get that little bit extra speed out of it, and it's still not high enough. That'll change with the final version, so that's not a concern that I'm worried about. But just that feel of the click and the fact that I can just relax my hand was great. Let's talk about, real quick before we move on to the testing, just a few things that I would like to improve upon. Let's talk about my major complaint about the Rabbit. The only thing that I would like to see them maybe change is I found out that this scroll wheel is super uncomfortable. So when I have the mouse in the position, see where the scroll wheel is? It's right here in this middle joint. That means you have to curl your finger up a lot, and that actually, look at how I'm twisting my hand to do that. I just feel all the tension right here on the top of my hand. If you're doing a lot of web page browsing and scrolling, that gets uncomfortable really quick. In comparison to a lot of your average mices, see, this one's a little too far forward, but in a lot of my other mices, you know, my scroll wheel will be like right here at the fingertips, so that when I move over, I can just easily, you know, relax and not do that. So what I feel like the Rabbit should do is take this scroll wheel and put it all the way at the front here, so that it's right there at the fingertips. Because if it was right there at the fingertips, it's just super comfortable, and you just nice and easily grab that wheel, give it a little roll, and work great. So that would be that would be the only major suggestion that I'd recommend. Let's take this scroll wheel, let's put it all the way in the front, so that way it's right there by your fingertips, and then your web browsing will be really easy. One minor quibble, nothing that is uncomfortable or hurtful, but just something that I thought would be kind of cool. If you look at the base here, it slopes down so that your palm kind of just rests, and then it goes down to the desk. So this thing doesn't dig into your palm, but I did notice after a while that I just kind of could feel these edges a little more than I would like. So I would feel like if they just take this, and instead of being a little bit, it's a little rounded, but still kind of more squared off. So if they actually like ovaled this back end so that it fits into the palm right there, then you wouldn't even feel those edges. Super, super minor quibble. It's like I said, we're not talking about pain or uncomfort or anything. It's just something it's just something I noticed and thought I'd throw out there. As far as the suggestion part, I did notice when I have my hand in the proper position, this front button's a little too far forward. So I feel like these thumb buttons need to come back a little bit more to catch the thumb. Because, you know, my hands are probably average and that's super short. This button's way too far forward, and I have probably average. I don't think I have huge hands, but I definitely don't have like small hands. I'm not the Burger King guy. So yeah, that would probably be a good idea, but it's just, you know, I don't know about you guys. I don't really use side buttons a lot. I do program some things to them, but I never seem to really get the hang of them. On the flip side though, the idea behind the Rabbit was kind of a weird quadra-click. There's a reason why that name exists for the company, because these buttons are supposed to press down and up with your fingers sliding in. Well, that would probably kill your hand. And then somebody was like, wait, if I put my hands on top, that's just super comfortable. I can't believe that. Here's the thing though, I'm thinking, I think you could bring quadra-clicks back, because what if, see, watch, if I'm pressing here with the back of my finger, my finger is up off the button and I'm not touching it. If there was a button here and here, so that just for like an occasional special ability, you could just curl your finger down and just tap that button once in a while, I bet you could make it a quadra-clicks again. I would think that would be kind of like a futuristic design idea. Maybe not something you'd want to launch with, but just something to think about down the road. The other possibility would be having these buttons be adjustable height, so you can adjust them as taller or flatter based on how you would like to feel. But that'd just be like ergonomics and comfort. I don't even know if that last suggestion would even be worth it, because it probably won't make any difference. I almost feel like that'd just be a waste of engineering and wouldn't really make any difference. So there you go. Closer look at the RBT, the Rabbit. And as you can see, that LED light's been going through the whole cycle the whole time. Looks pretty nice. Let's talk about now. So I've described how I use a mouse and how this thing changes that. Let's talk about now why this was affecting my gaming performance in pretty positive ways. Okay, so we've gone through the details on how I use mice and how that works for me. Let's talk about what this guy's doing. Now, for starters, on the carpal tunnel front, I don't suffer from that, and I don't have pain when I spend long gaming sessions. Now, granted, I don't get to do those very much anymore anyway, but even in spite of that, I just don't have that problem. I ran through some other people, tried to figure out if I could get like a good first-hand testimony about it, but overall, I can't give you much more than what the designer told me. And his simple fact is he was really getting into esports and carpal tunnel was destroying him, and this thing does not cause that pain. In my opinion, I don't know if it's because the design kind of forces you into that ergonomic position more, or if it does help not having all the tension at the tips of your fingers. I kind of feel like it's a combination of both. But overall, I gotta take it at its word. I mean, it's not a mouse that feels any level of uncomfortable. In fact, it does feel pretty relaxing to leave my hand on it. So on that level, I'm still gonna have to give it a pass. But here's where things get interesting. I put this mouse to the test, and here's the thing, clicking with the base of my fingers definitely takes some getting used to. So when I'm first playing Battlerite's the most intensive competitive game I can play, that I also can play at a level that I feel comfortable measuring the Rabbit versus a standard mouse. So I'm playing Battlerite, and I decide to do just some temporary sessions, start getting my mind adjusted. I'm having to think through my clicks, and even in spite of that, I'm still thinking, well, the mouse, you know, the Rabbit might be just a little bit better than a mouse. Not really sure. I do this through multiple sessions where I do short sessions, kind of get adjusted, and then take a break, go on to the next day. Finally, I get a really good, I've got a couple of hours on a morning when I can just spend some time. So I load up Battlerite. I play Jamon. He's an archer where every one of his skills are very, very, everything is very much timing, lots of clicking. I mean, every even just his standard auto attack takes a thought process through. He's a very tricky champion to play, great champion to test out a mouse. The first thing I noticed is I clearly could tell that the prototype only has a 2000 DPI sensor. Once again, that's going to get changed up, and I'm not worried about that. But I start playing, and I'm getting to this point where I'm starting to feel super comfortable with this mouse. I mean, everything about the Rabbit is feeling like a natural extension of my hand. I'm not thinking through anything. My reaction times are fantastic. I go into League and I'm playing at a gold rating, and it just feels like I'm playing at a ranking that I'm playing at a pro level I'm not used to playing. I'm a little skeptical. Maybe I'm having a good morning. So after spending about a good hour or two, and I've really gotten used to the Rabbit, and I'm really loving the way it feels, I'm like, huh, I feel like I'm doing great. I go back to my regular mouse, and it feels like a brick in my hand. Now, I get it. Some of that is just because I got used to something, but it's not just I got used to the Rabbit, and then I got to get re-used to my regular mouse. To this moment, I cannot get used to a regular mouse. I mean, it's basically right now, because of the prototype stage, it's just a trade-off of DPI sensor. And as soon as they get the full optical sensors that they want in the final product, it's not going to be a competition. This guy is a gaming edge. Take it for what it's worth. I know you're going to be watching this and you're probably going to think, no, I don't know. Look, I'm going to be working on this a little bit more, because what I don't understand is exactly why. So I have taken this to a physical therapist I know, and I'm also thinking of running it by some doctors and physicians that I know from where I work at, to just see if I can get some better input, try to understand why. I don't know for sure if I'll be able to do that, but initially there does seem to be something about the tip of the finger. It's like, especially since you use a right click, which uses your middle finger a lot, because you have to use that, and basically like it's harder to control your individual last three fingers. I mean, you can do it with time and practice, but it's a little bit harder than your pointer finger. It's like a lot of your dexterity is naturally inclined to your pointer, that by bringing it to the base, it really helps with that reaction time, because it's not using as much of your whole hand, which could also explain the carpal tunnel thing. Now, that's a terrible explanation. I will reconvene if I can. I don't know if I'll be able to. I'm trying. But right now, I'm just going to call it black magic. Black magic says, this thing feels amazing. I mean, on a competitive level, amazing. Let's go ahead and wrap this thing up. So guys, I hope I've given you a detailed look at the Rabbit. I know this sounds a little bit insane, and this is still in prototype stages, so it's a little hard to give full awards. I'm not 100% sure where the MSRP is going to land on this yet. It could be pretty pricey. If it fixes a carpal tunnel problem, in the sense that it's not overworking those tendons that are causing, you know, literally the carpal tunnel muscle or tendon that's in your hand that gets overworked. You know, if this thing is helping that to where there isn't any pain, can you put a price on that? I mean, you can't. And health is just one of those things that is really impossible to put a price on. But that being said, if it's just a faster reaction time for gaming, well, if you're an esports professional, that's going to matter. But if you're just a casual, like to play a competitive game, yeah, it's going to be your call. Do I think this is a legit product? Do I think that the claims are true? 100%. I can't argue with it. And no, I am not being sponsored by Quadraclicks or anything to say this. This is literally just my opinion. I think the guy has done an amazing job on this design, and I think he's onto something. I think he's going to help a lot of people get their lives back, especially competitive esports people. If I didn't believe it, I wouldn't be saying it. Now, I know that experiences vary, so take that grain of salt with you. I understand that. I can't run this mouse by 1,000 people who suffer from carpal tunnel and say, hey, did this help you? I don't have those resources, but I believe it's true. I'm gonna say editor's choice because of that. Pure overclock, editor's choice. It's a fantastic feel, and once you feel it, it's really super hard to go back to a regular mouse. I know, weird design. Let me know what you think. I'm sure you will. I mean, hey, it's the internet. It's what we do, right? We let our opinions flow. But hey, you know, if you can keep them kind of open-minded and just try to think through the possibilities that something could be helpful, that'd be great. So let me know. This thing is still in its Kickstarter stages. It did reach its funding goals, so we should be seeing launches sometime later this year. And I will catch you later.